So there are 3 axioms you have to believe in order to do philosophy at all. Let's look at them. So first, what is an axiom? So an axiom is something you can't prove, but it's something you have to accept within a certain discipline. Its truth is usually self-evident, and trying to disprove it is either meaningless or impossible in that field. So the first axiom is that logic is valid. So I've gone through the 3 laws of logic in a previous video. You can look at that on my channel. They are the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction, and the law of excluded middle. But why are they valid? Well, the problem is you can't really disprove them without using logic itself. It's like trying to write a book to argue that writing books is meaningless. Since we can't disprove logic without assuming that it's valid first, we have to accept it. I also argue that all or most animals use the 3 laws of logic. They need to understand what is food, what is danger, and they can't think that the food exists and doesn't exist at the same time. So logic seems to be baked into how brains interpret reality. So axiom number 2 is that our senses are reliable. So how can you prove that the senses are reliable? You experience everything through them. You can't prove or disprove your senses without using your senses. So it's circular. And trying to argue against the validity of the senses is also a contradiction. If you write it, you expect someone to read it. If you say it, you expect someone to hear it. You're using the senses to argue against the senses. Axiom 3 is that external reality exists. Once again, we can't prove the outside world exists without relying on the senses. So if we can't prove the senses, we can't prove the outside world exists definitively. And sure, you could ask, what if we are living in a dream? Or what if we are living in the Matrix? I myself don't find these arguments or questions particularly compelling. For example, if we are living in a dream, it means that our brains know every language in the world and can create perfectly logical and grammatically correct sentences in every language in the world and then pretend not to understand them while we're dreaming. While possible, very unlikely. And as for the Matrix, how powerful would a computer need to be able to simulate the real world? So every drop in the ocean and all the physics around that, every physical law, temperature, sound waves, random human thought and conversations. How much RAM and computing power would you need to run this kind of simulation? So in conclusion, you can't do philosophy or even live without assuming these 3 axioms. Logic is valid, the senses are at least somewhat reliable, obviously there are exceptions, and that the external world exists. So we're forced to accept them even if we can't prove them. But what are your thoughts? Let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.